All right, so we're recording. All right, so um,
Okay.
welcome to the Tom and the Wolverine MMA show. I'm the Wolverine. That's Tom right there up above me on my
Yes, sir.
trusty iPad. Uh, so we wanted to do this a couple days ago last week, but we were having all kinds of technical issues and just not being able to get our schedules lined up. So now we're going to go ahead and do this little podcast. What we're basically doing today is we're going to do a recap because this was originally supposed to be last week and there wasn't a UFC fight night coming up. So we're going to kind of do a little recap of the fights that have happened recently and then some of the fight announcements. And then hopefully at the end of the week, we'll do kind of a prediction show for the fight night coming up the weekend. So, like I said, I'm the Wolverine. He's Tom. And this is our first episode. So you're getting to see episode 1 here. We're not doing it live. Hopefully we'll be able to do it live soon. But this is going to be taped or recorded, I guess, and then posted later. All right, so we're gonna start out. We're gonna talk about a lot of different mixed martial arts events, but I mean, obviously, we're gonna talk about the UFC the most because it's the biggest show in town. So let's start out. We're going to talk a little bit about the most recent UFC pay per view. And I'm going to pop the card up here on the screen on SureDog.com. I used to go to mixedmartialarts.com a lot of times to see fight results and see fight cards coming up, but their website is like way out of date. So Sure Dog still has the fights, that just happened. They've got all the fights coming up. They've got all the different events. So that's where I have been going to lately to look up records and that sort of thing. All right, so I did send predictions to Tom on this one before it happened, and I actually predicted all the main card fights except for one correctly. So I felt like that was pretty good that night. I usually don't get that many of them right, but the fight that I got wrong was the Natalia Silva versus Alexa Grasso fight. But we don't need to really talk about that one that much. I mean, Alexa Grasso, I assume she would probably win, being the former champion and only having lost recently to Shevchenko, and having given Shevchenko, 3 really tough fights. But I mean, I should have done more research on Natalia Silva. That girl's a beast, and she went out there and won all 3 rounds. The next fight on the card was Ayman Zahabi versus Jose Aldo, and that was one we definitely wanted to touch on because it ended up being Jose Aldo's retirement fight. So I know, Tom, you got a lot to say about Jose Aldo, so I'll swing it over to you, and you can say, what do you think about Jose Aldo's just epic career?
Of course. Thank you, Jeff. Just so much respect for Jose Aldo and for having such a long, high-level career. I bet that kid took his first fight when he was 13, and he probably won. And to have had, I think we looked up last week that he won the belt at 145 pounds around 2009, kept it at 145 until 2015 when he lost to Conor McGregor. And
Actually, I'm going to click on
since
him just so we can confirm all those. But go ahead. Yeah, keep on going, Tom.
okay, thank you. Since then, he's been in an effort to regain that belt. And another reason, and I believe he got the interim belt at one point, but I think he reminded me of that last week, Jeff. But the thing that impressed me about one of the many, many things that really impressed me about Jose Aldo is after all these years of fighting and training, he still wants it so bad that he was willing to drop a weight division. You can imagine how hard would that be, Jeff? You fought at 155, right? Is that
Yeah.
typical? That most of your pro fights were at 155? Is that right?
Back when I was fighting, I mean, on the local events, I mean, it was pretty much not necessarily a particular weight class. It was a lot of times we agreed we're going to fight at this weight. So 155, 160, sometimes 165 or 170. It all just was just kind of on, between the fighters. Oh, we're going to meet at this weight. Unless you were
Yep,
fighting for some
I
sort of
remember.
title. But I was
I
going to look
remember.
up and see that Jose Aldo won the belt in WEC before it even became the UFC 145-pound belt on November 18th, 2009. So, yes, you were correct, Tom. And he had that belt to what? What do we figure? 2017 when he lost it to.
Or
Let's see.
2015 when he lost to McGregor.
Yep, 2015 he lost to McGregor, and then I believe he came back, got the belt again against Frankie Edgar when Connor moved up in weight. So I mean, and then I remember there was a lot of questions. Is Jose Aldo going to move up to 155? And then he shocked everybody by moving down to 135. And I mean, just had an epic career. That fight with where was it? I just saw it here. Uh, his first actual title defense in the UFC with I lost it here. I went past it. Mike Brown. He defended against Uriah Faber and Manny Gambarian. Mark Hominick was his first fight in the UFC defending the belt, and that fight was just insane. I was telling you last week that we named a combination after him after that fight called the Jose Aldo, of course, and it was a left body hook, right low kick because he did that so many times to Hominick. I don't know how Hominick could walk after that fight, and he went the distance with Aldo, and Aldo was on fire. And I really thought that last fight of his against Zahabi, that first round when he came out throwing the punches the way he was, it was very reminiscent of Jose Aldo of 15 years ago. I was just amazed. And I know he had the weight issues going in, and there's controversy about the decision and all of that. But I mean, he fought a great fight. His opponent was just amazing to take the fight the way he did, at a weight class up, and then to go the distance with Aldo, almost finish Aldo because Jose Aldo got so exhausted. But then, I mean, Aldo almost finished him the beginning of that third round. So, I mean, that whole fight was just insane. It was such a great fight. I mean, it's hard to even say somebody lost that fight because it was so close. Could have definitely gone Aldo's way. But, I mean, you can't fault the judges for giving it to Zahabi with the conditions, moving up the weight class last minute after he'd already actually made the weight. He'd already cut the weight to fight Aldo at 135. So, I mean, that was a crazy fight.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add about
I,
Aldo's career,
I
Tom?
do. I do because I think that having to make 135 again factored into Jose's loss, the Aldo's loss in his last fight. And I just wanted to ask you how you would do with this. Let's say you wanted that UFC belt at 145, but you're getting older because you're right there. You've been a champion in divisions and in other organizations. I don't, at approximately 155. Imagine now that you're older, you can't quite get that belt again at 155. So you decide you're going to go to 145. Imagine doing that today and having to get down. I know you're heavier than 155 right now, but let's say you're still in your fight shape. And now you're going to cut another 10 pounds. How hard would that be? It'd be easier if you were 21.
Yeah.
But at your age now, it's just even more impressive. So it's just another thing to add on that long list of things that Jose Aldo is willing to do that most of us are not.
Yeah,
So yes,
definitely.
congratulations to Jose Aldo.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen, most fighters at the end of their career, they want to go up in weight, not down in weight. I mean,
Of
other than
course.
like Frankie Edgar, Frankie Edgar was a small guy and he was walking around 155 his whole career, had been champ at 155, and then went down 2 weight classes towards the end of his career. But I mean, for him, I don't think it was as big of a cut as it was for Aldo. I mean, Yeah, Aldo cut
I'd
a
also like to.
lot to
Can
make
I
that
add
weight.
something about Aldo
Uh
that
huh.
I don't? I'm pretty sure I told you this, Jeff, but in case we do have a couple listeners out there, even for this very first show, I think you remember that I used to live next door to, and I'm just going to name drop whenever I can, a woman named Ana Gutierrez. She's an attorney, a Brazilian woman, and she represented a lot of the UFC fighters, especially the Brazilian fighters. You might remember there was a picture of my father, myself, and Junior Dos Santos. Um, that was another client friend of Anna's. So she's introduced me to a lot of UFC fighters. Now, I was over at Anna's. She was my next door neighbor, and I was in her apartment just visiting one day, and it was after the Conor McGregor loss. I guess Jose was not happy, and he wanted that rematch as soon as possible. And he wasn't getting the answers that he wanted, and he was looking for legal help. He wanted to rematch Connor immediately. He's like, I'm fine. He got lucky. I'm not hurt at all. I could rematch him the same night. I could rematch him in a week. I just want that rematch now. And I guess he was very, very angry. And he's just a very, I don't want to say anything that's in any way disrespectful, but I would say one dimensional, very focused, not primitive, but he's just a fighter at heart. And Anna said he's just seeing red all the time. He wants to fight Conor McGregor again. And she's telling me this story. And of course, I'm a huge fan of any UFC fighter, but especially legends like Jose Aldo. And all of a sudden, the phone rings, and she goes, "Hey, speak of the devil, you have to go." And I'm like, "Oh, can I stay? Can I listen, please?" And she looked at me, and I go, "Oh yeah, you're going to be talking in Portuguese the whole." And she says, "Yes, Tom, go." So she kicked me out. But it was interesting that when she got that phone call, and it was Jose Aldo on the other end, and she shared with me, and I've seen Jose talk about this publicly, so I'm not giving any information that the public doesn't know already. Jose has CTE, and he talked about it. I saw an interview where he was talking about it, and he says he has no memory of really any of his fights. And according to Anna, it's pretty bad. And she'll tell him something, as well as Dos Santos and a lot of her other fighters, and she'll tell them something, and the next day they'll call and ask the exact same question, and the next day they'll call and ask the exact same question. And it's scary when you start getting that. I hope that they can find some way and make it mandatory to MRI the brain and detect that as early as possible. I have a level of CTE that they can mark through blood type and different markers, but she's pretty sure it's so slight that it's never going to be much of a problem. But anyway, I'm going to start rambling. So I just love Jose Aldo, and prayers for him and his family, and I do hope he stays retired and didn't do any serious long term damage. So sorry about
All
my
right.
rant.
No, no problem. No problem. All right. And a little bit of insight there from Tom on Jose Aldo. Really quickly, let's just go over. Well, we're gonna go over the co-main event really fast, but Valentina Shevchenko versus Mana Fior. I thought that was a really good fight, but something about these older champions like Valentina Shevchenko, Alexander Volkanovski. Something I've noticed, and I'm sure you've noticed it too, Tom. Those two used to be so far advanced, so far above the level of their opponents, and
Yes.
now we're seeing that gap just like slowly start closing in. I I definitely saw that fight with Valentina. I mean, we've seen it with her fights with Alexa Grasso. Her fight before that with a girl from Brazil. I can't remember her name off the top of my head. But, I mean, we've seen the gap is closing. She's still a great fighter. She's still strong. But is she still going to be able to stay at that level and stay above these girls for much longer when you've got girls like, oh, shoot. Jazz Davinius that just fought on the card we're getting ready to talk about next. I mean, she just crushed oh Jessica Andrade. So I mean, we're seeing these girls at 125 get way better, and then of course the fight coming up this weekend that we're not going to talk about yet today, but the main event is another girls fight at a 125, and so I mean we're seeing these girls come up. I just don't know how much longer Valentina's going to be able to hold on to that belt. I do think that we may see Wei Lee move up from 115 to challenge Valentina because I know she asked Dana White about that her last fight, and Dana White said, "How can I deny that when she's won so many fights now in a row?" I think that would be really interesting to see her move up. I think she's gotten way better since her losses to Rose Namajunas. Man, Wei Lee could potentially, become double champ, which is a subject we're going to get to in a few minutes. We'll talk about the whole double champ situation and should there be double champs? Can you hold up two weight classes with one champion? We'll get to that in a minute. Let's go ahead. Is there anything else you want to say about that fight, Tom? That co-main event?
No, maybe just that
Okay.
I think, really quickly, I do think that, I'm sorry, now I'm forgetting her name, the Shevchenko, probably pound for pound the best female fighter of all time. And even better than Amanda Nunes, because she almost beat Nunes.
I honestly thought she beat Nunes the second time. The first time she just ran out of time because it was only a 3-round fight. She got the takedown, was in total control of the third round. But then when they fought the second time for the belt, I mean, I thought that Valentina won that fight. She did step backwards, and I know that goes to a lot of judges see you moving backwards, and that can affect the scorecards. And I think that's what happened with her fight. But I mean, she was. I thought she landed more strikes. I think if memory serves, I thought the strike numbers. I thought Valentina won. Maybe Nunes had more control time that fight, but damage wise and her total strikes, I thought she had won that fight. And I mean, of course, we saw her beat the current champ at 135. Her name's I'm drawing a blank. She's coming up. Her fight's coming up soon.
Was it Grasso?
No, Grasso was the girl she just beat for the belt. But she at 125, but at 135, Juliana Pena. Sorry, had to look to the side. I don't even have anything over here, but I looked off that side and it came to me all of a sudden. Juliana Pena is getting ready to fight against.
Okay, did I lose you? Oops.
No, can you hear me?
Okay.
Are you still there?
No, I'm still here.
Okay.
It glitched for a second. I'm still here.
So Juliana Pena is getting ready to defend her belt. I mean, if she were to win that fight,
now there's echoes.
Huh? Can you hear me, Tom?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Better. Now it's perfect
All right.
again.
Okay.
You went away.
All right. So
Shevchenko, pound for pound, greatest female.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, and she also has the win over. I mean, a dominant performance against Holly Holm, who had been also the champ at 135. So I mean, she could have potentially been the first ever women's 2-division champion. Let's go on to the main event really quick and talk about Jack Della Maddalena versus Bilal Muhammad. So that was a crazy fight. Such a good fight. I felt Jack won, edged out all 5 rounds. I mean, the 5th round was the most decisive round for sure. Biggest gap in the fight. What did you think of the fight, Tom?
Okay, now I can only be 100% honest because this is our first. As I'm watching that fight, it was very exciting, a lot of fun, and Bilal sometimes does. He's good at everything, but you like to watch fighters that have one skill that they're exceptional at. Maybe they have an incredible ground and pound, like say like Tito Ortiz, or they have just a relentless mauling style like Habib, or a stand-up style like Izzy or Alex Ferreira. Um, Marab, or I'm sorry,
Bilal.
Bilal doesn't have anything that he's outstanding at. He's just good at everything, and his personality is a little forced. Like he just seems a little like he's trying a little too hard, like a little nervous but confident at the same time. So he can be a boring fighter to watch, but he was a lot more exciting in this fight, in his loss, and I would think that his stock went up. He's handled it very well. He hasn't acted mad, or even though the fight was close, he never said, "Hey, I won that fight." Yeah, Bilal's a good guy. So that was an exciting fight. As far as the details of all the fight, the part that I have to be honest was, um, I fell asleep for part of the fight. Like in the middle round or two, I missed and didn't go back and watch again. So I have to admit that. But the 3 rounds that I saw were exciting. They were all very close. Bilal looked like he hit pretty hard, and Della Maddalena was real fast and sharp. And I thought it was very close. That's all I
So
can say on that one.
one thing I wanted to talk about on this fight was, like I said, I thought Jack won all 5 rounds. I thought, some of the rounds were closer. Bilal did get a few takedowns, and I know he's said since then that, what he did in that fight was not his game plan at all, that he totally strayed from his game plan, and that he was planning on going for takedowns early, and just he got out there and he didn't do it. And I know, sometimes you get out there and bright lights and everything, and sometimes you don't do what you had planned, and you end up with a totally different strategy than what you were going for. One thing I thought was weird, and I'm going to introduce a little controversy on this, is that during the fight, and I believe I saw maybe one post about this online, during the fight, after or towards the end of round 4, they showed the significant strike numbers, and of course they had Jack with rounds 1 and 2 being ahead by a few, and then they had Bilal ahead in rounds 3 and 4 by a few strikes. I was confused. I thought that Jack had outstruck him, and then of course the fight ends. They go to the scorecards. I know the judges. I believe 2 judges had it 3 rounds to 2 rounds for Jack, and another judge had it 4 rounds to 1 round for Jack. But here's where things get a little weird: is that the significant strike numbers come out after the fight. They popped them up on the screen, and Jack did outstrike him all 5 rounds. Every round he had more significant strikes than Bilal did. So it makes me wonder sometimes, do the judges see those significant strike numbers if they look up at a big screen? I don't know. I just think it's really
That's a
weird
good
that
question.
2 judges had the fight even going into the 5th round. I don't know how that happens, because I I definitely didn't think it was even going into round 5. I do like the fact that Jack Della Maddalena and JDM, he went out there and he fought like it was even going into the 5th round, because that was his best round of the whole fight. Even when he got taken down, he immediately scrambled, got back up to his feet, and just put it on Bilal. So, I mean, I know Bilal had some significant injuries. He had the cut on his lip, a broken orbital, I think a broken nose too. So, I mean, it's going to take a while for him to heal up and get back in the gym to prepare for his next fight. I have heard, and I think they confirmed that it's actually a rumor and not signed, that Bilal Muhammad versus Shavkat towards the end of the year. I know that was posted, but then I believe Shavkat's manager said no, that's not even true. So I guess we'll see what happens on that. I know Bilal is calling for, if Kamaru Usman were to beat Joaquin Buckley, which is hard task. We'll see what happens on that one. But he would like to fight Kamaru Usman next. I know they had on Usman and Henry Cejudo's podcast, they had some words. And
I'm gonna
so,
have to go back and watch that. We
yeah.
could do a whole show on just that because I heard about that, and because evidently, this is one of the reasons why I'm not a big fan of Bilal. He says that I heard him say that Kamaru Usman was crying, and then he kind of said crying like a baby, and made it sound like Bilal broke Kamaru and made Kamaru cry. I have a feeling that what really happened. Oh, and then he said Usman didn't even broadcast the episode. He didn't even play the episode. He said, "Why would he? I made him cry." I have a feeling if Kamaru cried during that episode, he was probably talking about his kids or something. It was not fear of.
I've only seen a few little clips of it.
Cry, I guarantee it.
I've only seen a few little clips of that, so I'm not positive what happened. I'd have to go back and try to watch the whole thing. I have seen some things on that on, I believe the MMA Zone was talking about their little feud that they had. But I think it's interesting. You hear him calling for, if Usman wins that fight, I want to fight Usman next. But he's not calling for Joaquin Buckley if Joaquin Buckley gets Usman out of there.
And also that would make sense as well for several reasons. But Usman on his way down. And will he even take another fight after this fight with Buckley? I doubt it. And I don't think, it's just not really fair. It's from what I hear, Usman has a lot of the same issues that I used to have with my knees, where he likes to walk on a soft surface. I'm the same way. I don't like walking on concrete. I'll walk on the grass. If Usman's knees are hurting him that bad, that can't be good for his fighting career. And I just think Usman needs to retire just from that. And when you see him right before he fights, and he's posturing, they used to see him and he's duck walking back and forth, changing levels, shooting, and as a warm-up, he doesn't do that now. And it just looks older. His body looks older. His skin looks great. His face looks great. But I think his body's not going to let him keep doing it. Even though he may not have brain damage yet, his body's not going to let him keep doing it. And I think that's why Bilal doesn't really necessarily want the Joaquin Buckley, because Buckley's not a legend like Kamaru Usman. So if he gets to fight Kamaru Usman, you probably get a much better paycheck for one, and have a better chance of winning, because the longer you wait with Usman, the better chance you have. I think his knees are probably not going to get better, but that's why I think he called for only, and the pretend controversy, which was probably BS anyway. But okay, that's what I think about that.
So I definitely agree with what you're saying about Usman. And I mean, why would he want to fight? I mean, if Buckley gets Usman out of there, Buckley probably gets the next title shot. But that's something we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. But let's go.
I don't believe Bilal should be ranked number one, but okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, he is. He actually is ranked number one. Let me pull that up really quick, because I do have the UFC rankings right here.
There's no way the champ should always go down to the number one ranking when he loses.
Yeah.
Even if the champ goes out and gets knocked out quickly, with like Jose Aldo did with Conor McGregor, was an early knockout. That doesn't mean that Jose should drop 2 spots. It should be mandatory. If you lose the belt, you're down to number one.
All right.
At least for the day. Maybe the next day some other fighter does something outstanding and steals your spot, but should be mandatory that you.
Yeah, I've got the rankings up on the screen here. Bilal did move down to the number one spot, which he should be. He does have a win over Sean Brady. And something we've talked about before. I guess we can get into the welterweight scene a little bit right now. We've talked about Sean Brady, and Ian Gary. Ian Gary should be begging to fight Sean Brady just to keep his name out there. because you've got Joaquin Buckley ranked down here at number 7, right behind Ian Gary. And if he gets that win over Kamaru Usman, I think he propels himself with the win streak he's been on. He propels himself right to that title shot. I mean, the only other fighter that could potentially have that title shot would be Shavkat. But I mean, how long is it going to be till he's back from his injury? I heard he had knee surgery a couple weeks ago. So, I mean, if you had,
Oh,
I thought maybe he had
okay.
surgery on both knees. So, I mean, he's out for a while. So, I
Wow.
definitely think the next guy that's going to be, obviously we have Makhachev moving up. So, I mean, Makhachev gets next title shot, but I think Buckley puts himself in that title picture pretty quick if he were to finish Usman. Uh, but I mean, that's all. We're gonna find that out here in a few weeks when that fight happens. Um, so let's go ahead and anything else you want to say? I did,
No, sir.
I did talk about the whole controversy with the significant strike numbers on the screen last weekend
Oh,
or 2 weekends ago when they had uh, the fight night card that we're getting ready to go to next. Um, there was a fight on that card where the Julian Erosa versus Costa fight, and I thought that Costa was a head-on significant strikes in the third round, and they popped up the significant strikes, and it showed Erosa ahead. So now, something I've been wondering when I see these significant strike numbers pop up on the screen, sometimes I'm like, what fight are they watching? Because those numbers don't look like what I'm seeing. And I do think that, potentially they are getting those significant strike numbers wrong during the fight. And who knows if it's affecting judging. Um,
wow.
but, I mean,
Yeah, because
I
you asked
guess,
the question: do judges see the CompuBox or the punch statistics
yeah.
or not? I think that they should be allowed to see them, and they should get it flashed to them. They shouldn't have to take their eyes off of anything to look at see some monitor. I don't know. Do you think that the
I
judges
just,
should see those? But
I
they have to be
do,
accurate.
but I worry if they're accurate or not because I mean,
If they're not
if they're
accurate,
not
that's not
accurate
good.
and those
But
significant strikes
I
are
think,
popping up, that could be influencing some of these
oh yeah,
judging
in a bad way.
some of these judges'
I think that
decisions.
they're accurate. It's just that when the fight that you mentioned that they were inaccurate, that very well I believe totally happened, but I don't think that's very often the case. Usually, when I compare the punch stats versus what I saw, it matches. But I can't say that I do that often.
All right, let's go ahead. Let's move on from that last pay per view and let's move on to the fight night. I just wanted to mention a couple things about this last fight night. There was a fight between Luana Santos and Tainara Lisboa, I believe her name is, and that fight ended with a Americana. I don't know if you know this, Tom, but do you know what's significant about her winning that fight with an Americana?
No.
I guess, and this blew my mind. They said this right after it happened that was the first Americana shoulder lock this way submission by a woman in the history of women fighting in the UFC. That blew my
Okay.
mind. That's like one of the first moves you generally learn when you start training jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So I was really shocked by that statistic. I'm like, that's the first time a woman has ever won by that in the UFC, and I believe women have been fighting the UFC
Interesting.
for about 10 years.
Interesting.
So that was crazy to me. I guess there's been a lot of rear naked chokes and arm bars and guillotines, but nobody's gone for that. But I mean, props to her for getting the first one. Uh, let's see, what other fights did we have? I'm scrolling through them. Like I talked about the Julian Erosa Costa fight. That was a great fight. Definitely fight of the night. And I mean, I was expecting that to be one of the best fights of the night. And I did think Costa would win. I'm just super impressed with that guy. His skill and his technique and footwork that fight were really good. Um, let's see. main event on that fight. Okay, so we had Michael Morales fighting Gilbert Burns. Morales was the young up and coming fighter. Going into the fight, he was 17-0, and Gilbert Burns was coming off of 3 straight losses. Um, Man, that's a tough position for Gilbert Burns to be in. What did you catch all that fight, Tom?
I did. I did watch that one. That night, that fight, the main event, I watched all the way through, and broke my
Well,
heart. I love
you
Gilbert
didn't
Burns.
have to
Huge
stay
fan.
awake for that one because I mean it was one round and it was over. Man, it's a tough position when you are the guy that's been fighting the OG forever, and you get put in with a young guy. I know. I mean, he's fighting down in the rankings, but still, I mean, that's a tough one. And I've heard Morales. Oh, I'm trying to think what fights he's been calling for a couple different fights. I think one I believe was Ian Gary. He would like to fight Ian Gary. Man, that kid looked good. Um, Poor Gilbert Burns. I mean, coming off of losses to the current champ, the guy that just lost the belt, and the former number one contender, and Sean Brady. I mean, you can't have tougher fights than what he's had. Um, and I
No
mean,
kidding.
you look at him; he went the distance with Hamzat Shemaev. So I mean, he's shown like so much in his career, but I do think that maybe his career is coming to an end. Um, you know, I don't know. We saw Benoit Saint Denis on that previous card was offered, tougher ranked opponents, and he like said no. Why I want somebody easier, and the opponent he ended up fighting was a guy who had been cut from the UFC, and they brought him back just to fight him. So I mean, sometimes when you're on, you're having some tough challenges and mixed martial arts, and you're losing fights. Sometimes it's good to get a slightly easier fight to make a comeback. And I mean, there are no easy fights in the UFC, and even that fight I wouldn't say would be an easy fight. But man, if Gilbert Burns wants to continue, I mean, at some point you need to have success. I think I remember a jiu-jitsu coach one time telling me, if somebody's just muscling out of your moves when you're trying to drill, you're never going to learn anything. Your brain needs to have that success so that you can, learn and move
Yes.
on. And if you can't ever do the move right, then when you go to do it for real, you can't do the move. And I think fighting is the same way. Sometimes you have to, have success to get back on track. And I mean, when you fight the 3 top guys in the division and have 3 tough losses, then you fight this young up and coming kid. It's going to be tough for him to get back on track.
Yeah. Well, Gilbert's opponent just dominated him, and Gilbert looked really emotional after that. And I really hope that he retires. I don't see the point. Like, maybe if he could get a big money fight against somebody, but no way should he just take anybody from the UFC ever
Yeah,
again.
I
So
see.
prayers for
I
for for Gilbert Burns. Nicest guy. He's on a couple podcasts. He's super successful with
yeah,
Renato Moicano. A great guy, and he has great Gilbert Burns on there. They're hilarious together. I hope he can make a little money from that. I hope he becomes a coach and gets a job sponsoring. He gets sponsored and makes enough money to feed his family, and never fights again unless he gets a special payday. So
yeah, I see.
prayers for that.
Gilbert Burns moved down to number 10 in the rankings, and Michael Morales has now taken that number 8 spot right behind Joaquin Buckley, who we've been talking about a bunch. So, I mean, man, that division is so stacked right now. Um, Welterweight is just a very deep division. One of the
Yep.
deepest divisions there is. I mean, 155, 145, all those divisions are so crazy right now. I mean, you get down to
Yep.
125. that division is, I mean, it's been so dominated by uh, the champ right now that, and then the top contenders in that division also. I mean, you got Alexander Pantoja, um, but we're not really talking about flyweight right now. But I wanted to show, you look at these other divisions, and 145, 155, and 170 right now are just absolutely insane. Anybody could be champ at any given moment. Like I said with Alexander Volkanovski, I think his dominance and the gap between his skill level and his endurance and everything else is starting to get a little bit tighter. Let's go ahead and let's move on. Let me see, what was our next topic? Reaction to recent fight announcements. Uh, and we've got tons of fights being announced. I had a bunch of them pulled up on my phone here that I wanted to mention. What's the fight that you've heard recently announced that you're most excited for, Tom?
Probably Hamzat Duplessis for sure.
That is a good
Among
fight.
well,
That's a good one.
my hopes up for Ilya Tupuria versus Islam Makhachev. I wanted to see Ilya go straight to Islam, but they did some different fights. Okay, but that's the one I really thought was going to be a great fight. But of the announcements, yeah, Hamzat versus Duplessis is very interesting because Hamzat's terrifying, and Duplessis is great. Would already predict Duplessis in an absolute win. But yeah, that one is going to be super exciting. Hamzat's always a lot of fun to watch. Um, so that's one that I'm liking. What do you think?
I think that's going to be a really good fight. Also, when that one gets closer, we'll definitely give our predictions. The other fights that have been announced, I mean, of course, with Makhachev moving up, we've got Topuria going to fight Oliveira. I mean, Charles Oliveira versus Ilya Topuria. That is a crazy fight. I heard somebody, some people saying, there's no way that Charles can win that fight. And then somebody made the point that, he's one of the guys with the most submission wins and finishes in UFC history. So, I mean, I definitely think there's a chance the dude can win the fight. Yes, Ilya has looked amazing. I think that's going to be a great fight. That's one I'm really excited to see. What other fights do we have coming up on
If I
that
can give
card?
a
Yeah, go
if I
for
can
it.
give a quick prediction, I believe Ilya dominates that fight, and it's because Charles has been Charles has peaked. I think probably 3-4 years ago. Ilya is getting better every year. There's probably a 5 to 10 year age gap. Ilya's younger, and I think Ilya's going to dominate. And I don't think he's going to let Charles submit him. But I'll bet on the ground only, Ilya still holds his own with Charles if they're just doing a jiu-jitsu match like we used to, or just on the ground. And I think Ilya still does well. And with everything else, I think Ilya beats him at wrestling, for sure. And yep, so that's going to be I believe, another good win for Ilya, but we will see.
I think it could be. I know they've talked about Justin Gaethje being upset that he was passed over for that fight. Man, it's tough to be upset when he got knocked out 2 fights ago by Max, and then Max got beat by Ilya. So I don't know. I definitely think the right guy with Charles getting the title shot is. I think that's the right fight. I I would
Yeah,
like to see Justin Gaethje versus potentially Paddy Pimblett. I mean, who would have thought we'd be here where Paddy Pimblett could emerge as the number one contender to go up against Ilya Topuria for the belt at 155 after they had all their feud a
yeah.
few years ago.
I
I mean,
believe that's what's gonna. I believe that's what's going to happen. Interestingly, I just wanted to add, Tupuria had an interesting take on the JRE Joe Rogan podcast, where he said he believes Paddy Pimblett beats Justin Gaethje, and that was before Pimblett's most recent win, where he looked so dominant against Michael Chandler. And again, age caught up to Michael, I believe. But he says no, Pimblett beats Gaethje easily, and Rogan's like, well, "What are you talking about? Gaethje's like number 2 or 3, and he's hands are made of concrete." And he said, Tiforia says, "Yeah, but Pimblett's much better on the ground." And he says, "How do you know? We don't see Justin grapple." And he says that's because he can't grapple. And he goes, well, no, I don't think that's. Rogan says, I don't think that's it. Rogan says, I believe that Justin Gaethje simply likes to stand and punch with fighters and would rather win a fight that way than on the ground with a submission. And Ilya just looks at him like, you don't know what you're talking about, Joe. And he's like looking at him like this. And he goes, Joe, we are in a sport where you are rewarded by winning a fight as quickly as possible. If Gaethje had that ability, he would do it. He said he doesn't train jiu-jitsu, he doesn't train ground, he's not good at submission only, and that's it. He says Pimblett beats Gaethje in a fight, Pimblett beats Gaethje on the ground easily. So it was an interesting takeaway. I think he's totally right. Like, you have had a lot more fights than I have, but I agree with that now. I think that Pimblett is so much better on the ground, and Gaethje doesn't not submit guys because he likes to stand. Doesn't submit anybody because he doesn't really work that. You only have so much energy, right, to put forth into your workout. You just can't train jiu-jitsu and striking and condition every day. It's too much. So you kind of have to pick what style you want to get as your number one. But that was an interesting take. And he said that before he dominated Michael Chandler, and made me think that Paddy Pimblett will beat Justin Gaethje, and I do think that's a good fight, and I do think that puts, if they make that fight, I think that they will, and that will put Paddy at one of the top number one ranked contenders. Of course, we want to see Paddy versus Tupuria, and if Tupuria can get the belt against, against, it's for a vacant belt,
Mm-hmm.
and with Charles Oliveira versus Ilya Tupuria. So yeah, Tupuria becomes champ after that, and first title defense very easily could be against Paddy Pimblett, and that'll be the exciting fight that we've been waiting for there. And one last thing I wanted to add, interestingly, another reason why I like Ilya Tupuria so much, if you remember that press conference where Paddy and Ilya were going back and forth. I don't know who was the main event, but for some reason, yelling at each other. At that time, Ilya Tupuria barely could put a sentence together in English. English was like his fifth language. He didn't speak English yet. A year later, he speaks English like he's been speaking it his whole life. It just goes to show how smart that guy is, how hard he must work at everything, and it's good seeing a family man like that, married to a beautiful woman with beautiful children, and he's successful in business, and he's successful in his sports. So, yep, that'll be just another reason to compliment Ilya Tupuria.
Yeah, definitely a fight I'm excited to see. And like we were talking about, 155 being so deep. Um, So really quick, I just want to talk about, they've got this new guy coming in, Patchy Mix, that they just signed. I went and I did watch some of his fights and watched his highlight video. Guy's really impressive. But we've seen champs from other organizations come over to the UFC and sometimes struggle. But we've also seen champs, do really well coming over from other organizations. Reiner de Ritter, just beat. Um, Bo. I'm trying to think of his name. The wrestler. Um, man, we talked about that fight too. Um, the national champion wrestler that just fought not that long.
Nichols?
Yeah, Bo Nichols.
Oh, Nichols.
Bo
Okay, right.
Nickel. So I mean, we've seen guys come in and who've been dominant in other organizations. We've also seen guys come in and struggle right off the bat and then have to work their way up. I mean, Michael Chandler was champ in Bellator and he came over to the UFC and what does he have? 2 victories, and he's got quite a few defeats now. But I mean, he also is fighting all the top guys. So, uh, but I what do you think about champions coming over from other organizations, or fighters going from the UFC and fighting in other organizations? Tom.
I think it's great, and it should happen more often. I think the UFC wants to control MMA, and they want all MMA to be run through the UFC. That's why they won't do any co-promotions ever. They don't want to think of another MMA organization as being UFC's equal. But yeah, of course, it'd be great if they could fight each other from one championships or from Bellator or any other organization. It would be great, but UFC doesn't like that. They keep their fighters under contract and won't allow it, I believe, and the other organizations probably would allow their guys to go in and jump in and fight a UFC guy because it would probably benefit the champion from the other organization more so than the UFC guy. If a UFC guy beats a Bellator guy, it doesn't mean as much, but if a Bellator guy beats a UFC guy, it means more. Now, one fighting, I don't know as much about that organization over in Japan. Maybe more fans watch one than that watch UFC. But over here, a lot of us don't follow one.
I know I watched a few of one or two of Ryan DeRitter's fights and one, and I wasn't super impressed with him. But then what he's done since he's come to the UFC, I mean, he's been way more impressive, and he's shown abilities I didn't realize. I mean, when I saw the guy fight before, I was like, the guy's just mainly a grappler. And then against Bo Nickel, he was using, I mean, he looked like a Dutch kickboxer. His stand up was sharp. One other thing I wanted to talk about, with guys going from one promotion to another, and I don't know if you've caught any of Karate Combat. I did say, we want to talk a little bit about other organizations, but we've seen fighters that get cut from the UFC who weren't even, ranked fighters go to other organizations and become champions. The one I was thinking of is Smiling Sam Alvey is now a 2 division champ in Karate Combat, which is super impressive.
Yes, I
He
saw that.
knocked out. I
I
mean,
saw that.
he knocked out a really highly renowned kickboxer his last match to become a double champ. We've seen other guys from UFC who weren't ranked go to other organizations, mainly the PFL. The very first season of PFL, Sean O'Connell had been cut from the UFC, had a losing record in the UFC, went in and won the first season, won the $1 million prize for winning that first season of that show. And the other one that's really crazy, and I can't even think of the guy's name off the top of my head because like in the UFC he wasn't really even well known. Though one thing he's well known for is our guy we talked about before, Joaquin Buckley's highlight reel jumping, spinning back kick to the head while the guy had him by the leg. The guy he knocked out in that highlight reel knockout won a season of the PFL. So, I mean, but then we've also seen guys from the UFC
Oh,
go to the PFL and not do as great, who were champions, like Anthony Pettis fought in the PFL and didn't make it that far in the season. So, I mean, it's.
I wonder if you could find out. I'm sorry, Jeff, I
Go
interrupted.
ahead. Go ahead.
Continue, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
I
Go ahead,
wonder if you
Tom.
could find out how much does Smiling Sam Alvey make in Karate Combat now that he's the champion. I wonder what he gets. That Karate Combat's a lot of fun. It's doing well. I wonder, is he making more than he ever made in UFC now that he's champ?
I did see a video last night that Salma Alvey had posted that said his debut fight in Karate Combat, he made more than his debut fight in the UFC. He was talking about
Yeah,
the
I
pace.
believe that for sure.
Yeah, he's talking
Because
about the
they
pace
got to get.
structure and Karate Combat where they reward, big finishes. You knock a guy out, you get a bigger payday than if you beat him by decision. Which I wish all organizations were that way.
Right.
I think,
UFC should
man,
probably add that. I'm surprised they
finishes
don't.
finishes should count as the biggest. You get a finish, you
Yeah.
get an automatic huge bonus. Um, but I guess some organizations, I mean, they have where you're getting paid the same amount of money whether you win or lose. But if you win with an impressive knockout or a crazy submission, you get a bonus on top. So
Yes.
I think there should be more incentives. Other things I'd like to see change, open judging. If fighters think things are even going into round five, like JDM did a couple weeks ago, and then they go out and they fight for that finish in that fifth round. Whereas if, maybe, I don't know, maybe the only drawback is it's 5 rounds and you look at your score going into round five and you're ahead, then maybe you just cruise. But I don't know. Maybe I don't know.
I think the
Sometimes
reason that I have an idea for the UFC, but I'm not sure that I think this might be more trouble than it's worth. What if, in order to keep the pay the same, but incentivize knockouts, what if you gave the winner's share in 10% more if he wins by finish, 10% less if he wins by decision?
that might
You
be
know,
interesting.
but
Might be
just
interesting.
something.
They definitely.
It's something.
I definitely think there was a string of UFCs where they didn't give any bonuses. I think those bonuses are important because it incentivizes you going out and being
Yeah.
impressive. I mean, you should be
And
incentivized to be impressive because you're going to get a title shot the more impressive you are. A lot of times, I know there's some guys that complain, well, this guy's undefeated. He's 25-0 or something like that, but they're not giving him a title shot. But maybe it's because he's not an exciting fighter. I don't know. Um, I think the exciting fighters sometimes they jump the line. Um, I definitely think we've talked about him all night. Joaquin Buckley with exciting finishes like he's had. He gets another exciting finish, he's probably pushed right into that title shot. So I think maybe that's one of the biggest incentives to get that impressive victory. Um, let's see what else. There were a couple other things I wanted to talk about. Let's go ahead and move on. Oh, the double champ debate. I don't know if we should get into that one tonight. We've gone pretty long
you,
with this. We can talk about it really
we
quick
can
if
make
you
a
like,
separate.
or we could talk about
You know,
that next show. We can talk about the double
if you
champ
want to
debate
make
next show.
Jeff, this was my idea. I don't think that people are going to want to watch us talk for a long time. This is just a thought. I'm talking out loud, for everybody to hear. I think it might be if we get, when we get a fan base of people that are watching, probably just our friends at first, uh, um, shorter videos might be better, but sometimes the headline is a good hook to get them to watch. And when we make a video calling, John Jones up, the holding UFC hostage, or John Jones, have been severe. UFC top 10 fighters have been severely affected by what John Jones is doing right now, just for the sake of ego or whatever, money, whatever's making him do this. It's shocking that Dana White is allowing this to happen. But if we want to talk about anything like that, that's cool. I know that my phone's down to about 15%, but I thought we could do a separate video on that and maybe just make it like 10, 20 minutes, put that out there as well. We can do a consistent one every week, but I bet the ones that get the most views are ones like that has a catchy title. But whatever you say, brother.
let's
As long as my phone
let's
doesn't die, I can stay on the phone.
Okay, let's move on really quick. So I
Okay.
mean that gets us right into my next subject, which was what happened to the heavyweight division. I mean, people used to always love to watch the heavyweight fights. Now we've got a heavyweight division where I don't think most of the casual fans could pick guys from who are ranked from number 6 to number 15. I mean, even fans that watch every UFC, could you pick out, could you look at these guys if they're in a lineup and name them? So that's what I wanted
Yeah.
to do really quick here, Tom. I've got a picture of a guy ranked in the uh, top uh, 15, and I bet you can't name this guy. I'm gonna see if can you see
Okay, I want
that?
to see.
Can you see
Okay.
that picture?
I can't see the picture. He's. It's funny. Okay, I know you're right. I cannot name him, but I have an inch. Let me just throw something out. Joe Rogan made the smartest comment. He says, "Let the heavyweights, at the very least, let the heavyweights take steroids again,"
I heard
because
that.
he's like, he goes, "I want to see Alistair Overeem. It's for entertainment for us. I want to see Alistair Overeem as the heavyweight champ, not necessarily
That
Taito Ivasa. And I'm just talking about body types. Actually, Alistair, I heard, is kind of a jerk, and Taito Ivasa is a super nice guy, so I like that. But Ty is a little fat, and he says, I don't want to see fat heavyweights. But I kind of have to agree with that. But
All right, let's try.
controversial subject
What
we
about
can
this
talk.
guy, Tom?
Who's that guy?
Oh man,
Okay,
I
I
believe
might know that guy.
I believe his last name is Acosta. This guy right here, though, this guy, you might build a
I don't know.
name. You recognize him?
Getting closer, but I can't say his name. I don't know it.
That one is Jaitan Almeida. I mean, he's been in a couple big main
Almeida.
events.
Okay.
I think
Yes.
he's a little bit more well known. I mean, right there. I don't know if the people watching would know who he is. This guy right here. This guy is in the top
Nope.
15.
No
So
idea.
no idea. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'd have to go back and look these guys up.
Vol,
But these guys are all
Vol,
ranked.
Vol,
Also top
Volkov
15
had.
guy.
Don't know him either.
Nope. All right, let's let the fans, the people watching, see. You know that guy? Can you name that fighter? This guy,
Volkov.
this guy here too. I mean, also in the
No
top
idea.
15 of the heavyweight division.
Horrible,
I,
horrible tattoo. Who
yeah,
told that guy
I
that
mean,
was a good idea to put that?
yeah.
Can I curse on this? That's a
No,
horrible
let's
tattoo.
let's not curse.
That's stupid.
One more. This guy. So these are all 6 guys who are in the top
Yeah,
15,
I don't know.
and
Yeah, no
I
idea.
mean, I guarantee most people that watch every UFC couldn't name most of those guys. Like I said, Almeida, maybe people are gonna pick out, but the division is just such a mess right now, and this is why John Jones versus Tom Aspinall is a fight people want because the division is so shallow right now. We talk about other divisions being deep. This is the most shallow the heavyweight division has ever been in the history of the UFC, I believe. And then, I mean, if we say, hey, we're going to move on from John Jones, what do we move on to? There's nothing to move on to. I mean,
Volkov
You
and
have
Aspinall.
Surreal Gone got the win over Volkov, but most people thought Volkov won, including Dana White. I mean, do you give
Yes,
Volkov the title shot after losing a
yes.
controversial decision? Do you give Surreal
I would.
Gone the fight?
No.
Plus, I mean, there's also the fact that Volkov lost a few fights back to Tom Aspinall. But, I mean, I believe it was a first round submission. I mean,
Yeah.
how can you. I mean, what do
Well,
they do?
I did not know that.
I mean,
Yeah, but
it's.
Aspinall does that to everybody. Aspinall's going to be the champ, man. It's such bullshit that and we didn't talk about if I can have a potty mouth
We're all right
on
on
here or
that one,
not,
I think.
because I'm cool with either way. My beautiful wife encourages me not to curse. Um, when Volkov said, "But for John Jones, I would have fought for the title by now,"
Exactly.
and it's just so obviously Tom Aspinall's not the only fighter who is getting screwed royally, and it's just a disgusting. And it's shocking that it's not really that bad for John because John is acting on his own behalf. He's just being selfish with it, as many people would. What's shocking is that Dana White is letting it happen. MMA Guru believes that like John Jones knows something about Dana White
He's got dirt
clothes.
on
If he,
him.
yeah, which I'm sure is not true, but um, like, and then Islam Makhachev, who is supposed to be the pound for pound best, if he drops or if he fights at a heavier weight division, he automatically relinquishes his 155 belt? Of course not. That's ridiculous. I know we're going to talk about that later, but now, but John Jones can hold up the heavyweight division for a year and a half. F that, man. John, it's just another reason not to like John Jones. And you can't say he's not the greatest MMA fighter. He is. But the way he conducts himself outside of the cage is not good. And this is a lot of fighters have way more honor than to shit all over a sport who has treated him so well. The fans, like, why would you even be a John Jones fan when he is obviously doing this for selfish intentions? And he very well knows he cannot beat Tom Aspinall. There's no way. I bet Tom could practically beat him in a wrestling competition, but I no, maybe John's a better wrestler. But in a fight, Aspinall kills John Jones. It's a mismatch, in my opinion. John doesn't get out of the first round, and he's going to get knocked out. And John's got a granite chin. He takes a sledgehammer punch, but he's going to get hit by Tom. Tom's probably twice as fast as John. So I'm pretty surprised and unhappy with Dana White and the UFC for doing that, allowing this to continue, to keeping the heavyweight division open and until John Jones makes a decision. While there's videos of him doing some things that are not good. But yep, that's my 2 cents on that. I forget what the question was.
I definitely agree. I'm gonna slide you over a little bit here, Tom. I don't like it. Seems weird for
Okay.
some reason. But yeah, I definitely agree. There's just nowhere for them to go with the heavyweight division, which is why they've held it up this long, trying to get this fight put together. But I think Jones, I think he's gonna price his way out of it. He's gonna.
You could have had 10 stars by now. If they let everybody fight. Somebody would
Yeah,
have emerged.
yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, good point. And I also think this is the reason why so many people have wanted Alex Pereira to potentially move up to heavyweight because they don't have the stars in the division. Um, so I think that's one reason that there's been call and a lot of people wanting to see him move up. I mean, basically, the heavyweight division's dying and it needs an infusion of some new blood. So, I don't know. They need to figure out a way to make that division better. All right. Well, let's see. I think we've covered just about everything tonight that I'd like to cover. Anything else you'd
just
like to say before we sign off, Tom?
no. I would say that this was our first one. That hopefully, if the editing goes well, this one will work. And if the people that do watch this, I know will just probably be friends of ours and stuff at first. Thank you everybody for watching. I'm going to enjoy doing this because Jeff and I talk about the fights almost every week, and I always ask Jeff, can I call you? Can we talk about the fights? I have some questions, and Jeff's busy, and he always takes the time to take my call, and yes, we can talk. We have a 45-minute conversation about fights every week anyway. So I thought it would be fun to do this. This was Jeff's idea to do this, where we talk about it in front of a camera, but I think it's a great idea, and I'd like to keep doing it, and I know we'll get a lot better at it, and anybody that took the time to watch this, if you are still watching now, and you watched all the way through, please mention that and leave a comment, and please let us know what you liked and didn't like about it, because we don't know what the heck we're doing. We're just learning, and I'd like to make a little show where people think it's good. So help us out, and like, share, subscribe, whatever, blah blah. Said they say.
Yeah.
Oh, my phone's gonna die in about 2 seconds.
Okay, Tom.
Keep going,
All right.
brother. I'm almost out.
All right. I'll let you go.
No, actually, no. I have 5 minutes. Okay,
Okay,
keep going,
only
brother.
thing
I'm
I
sorry.
wanted to say, if everybody could keep my neighbor Robin in their prayers, he's battling cancer for a third time. So if you could keep him and his wife in your prayers, that would be great. All my friends
We
out
will.
there.
Thank you.
And we'll be back hopefully by the end of the week sometime to do a preview of the upcoming fight night. Um, We'll talk about the fights coming up, and like I said, like you said, our future videos are going to be shorter. I just wanted to kind of recap some of the stuff that's happened recently, but definitely next show we'll try to keep it under 30 minutes, and we'll discuss, the fights coming up. If there's any big fight news between now and then, we'll talk about that too. So for now, I'm the Wolverine. He's Tom, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks, guys.